This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace. Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Mysteries, where we are your hosts. I am Alexis.
I'm Grace.
And we are continuing our fun journey, if you have been following us lately, of retelling, reinventing, reimagining Halloween-themed episodes of classic animated shows. If you have been sticking with us on this podcast, you know that typically we'll do like an 8-episode arc focusing on one show. But for the month of October, in celebration of the wonderful holiday that is Halloween, we decided that we would instead pick whatever classic animated show we want, no rules. Besides that, the episodes we talk about are Halloween-themed episodes. So we've had a lot of fun the past couple of weeks talking about Darkwing Duck and their Halloween episode, a Scooby-Doo themed Halloween episode. And today, Grace will be continuing this journey for week 3 with yet another fun Halloween cartoon episode. I don't know which one she's doing, so I'm very excited. Oh, and she looks excited too. And like she's got a good surprise up her sleeve. So take it away, dude.
Great.
Unless I'm missing something else.
Nope. Maybe, probably.
Whatever. Oh, well, that means take it away anyway.
Yep. So for my second Halloween episode, the third in our Halloween arc, I am taking the torch from a series that you recently covered, and I'm also doing the Scooby-Doo show.
All right.
Yay!
Yes.
There's a lot of
back
Scooby-Doo.
To where we began.
Yep.
Yes.
There's a lot of Scooby-Doo episodes, Halloween themed. If you're just tuning in, the first series we covered was Scooby-Doo. Alexis did a lot of Scooby-Doo show like iteration. And last week, if you didn't listen to last week's episode, pause this, go listen, come back. Alexis did a Scooby-Doo show Halloween iteration. Listen to all of them, rate, like, review, subscribe, tell a friend, then come back to this episode. Do all the same
social
things.
Media, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I am carrying on to the torch of the Scooby-Doo show today with Halloween themes for an episode filled with secrets of the rich, the legends of old, and it's Halloween, costumes.
Of course.
Yes. So we're going to start with that last piece. Costumes. And we're starting here because that's where our story starts today, on Halloween night at a Halloween party at an enormous mansion, where else but the middle of the woods.
Of course.
So Alexis, the gang and Scooby-Dum are all at this party.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Scooby-Dum's here.
Ooh. Halloween and Scooby-Dum. Oh,
yep.
What a good combo.
It's got it all.
Yeah.
So before we get into our episode, again, it's a Halloween party. Who do you think everyone in the gang plus Scooby-Dum is dressed up as? What do you think everyone's Halloween costume vibes would be?
Like guess each person.
Yeah.
One by one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So I'm gonna guess that Fred is a pirate.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess that Daphne is a princess.
Okay.
Velma is a witch.
Okay.
Shaggy is like a mummy.
Okay.
And Scooby is like, or no, Shaggy is Dracula and Scooby's a mummy.
You got a lot of this correct.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I should be proud of that or not.
I was trying to remain very neutral, but like straight up. Okay. Shaggy is dressed up as a vampire.
Oh my gosh. And the fact that I switched that at the last minute, I was like, wait a minute. No, Shaggy would totes be the vampire, not the mummy.
Yes. Okay.
Ooh,
yeah, that was incredible. I'll describe everyone's fits and how correct you are.
Oh my gosh.
Shaggy, the vampire, he's got fake teeth, a black cloak. He has like a tuxedo top with like shoulder pads, but then his like normal red bell-bottom pants. Because he didn't rent the whole tux.
He's like, that's too expensive. Yeah. It's like enough of the vibe.
Yeah, he's got the teeth. So then Fred is a pirate.
Oh my gosh.
He's wearing, like blue pants, probably just his blue jeans, a navy blue like
Mhm.
swashbucklers jacket with like a big belt, like the big boots that fold over, a large blue like pirate hat, and then underneath he like turned his orange ascot into like an orange like bandana to like wear beneath the slightly crooked
Cool.
hat.
Reuse, reduce, repurpose, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Velma, a witch. Listen to our last
Yes.
episode before this one, by the way, everyone, for a witch tale.
Yeah, quite a tale.
But yeah, a classic witch rocking a long red dress, an orange cloak, the classic big black witch's hat, very exactly what you expect. Daphne is like a fairy, but I'd say a princess fairy.
Okay.
She's got like a long purple gown on, a sheer pink cape, and like fairy wings, so very princess-esque. So I would give you that one too.
All right, thanks. That's
so
maybe a half point.
Yeah. So basically, the only one you got wrong is Scooby.
Okay.
Because he and Scooby-Doo have a joint outfit because they're a horse with one of them. Scooby-Doo being the front of the horse, Scooby-Doo being the butt.
Okay. Cool. Yep. Fair. Yeah, sorry, I didn't even think to guess what Scooby-Doo would be dressed as. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
wow.
So like, again, incredible job.
Yeah, again, not sure if that's something to be proud of, that I could guess what every person in Mystery Inc. would wear as a costume to
I'm proud.
party. But thank you. You know, it's worth it.
Yes, good. Cool. So amazing work, amazing start. But the gang is only half the story here. Because like I said, they're at this giant mansion party. And while I would not at all be surprised if the gang had just like randomly crashed a party in the middle of the woods, because they sometimes just walk into places unannounced or uninvited, they were actually invited to this party.
Oh, good.
And so specifically, this estate is known as, or this house on this estate is known as the Crane Mansion, which has been in the Crane family for generations. The gang's friend is this woman, Beth, who invited her to the party. And the party is hosted, so the person who actually lives in the mansion is Aunt Gertrude. Gertrude.
Aunt Gertie likes to party.
Oh, yes, she does. Beth's cousin, Elmwood. And then the person who's actually doing all the damn work to pull off a great Halloween party, like the catering, the drinks, the vibes, is Tarloff, who is the butler. And yes.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I had to like recheck it like 10 times because I was like, what is this name?
Tarloff.
Yeah,
interesting.
I feel like he showed up and then these Richie Rich Crane family was like, he's like, my name's James, and they were like, no. Tarloff.
If you want to work here, now? You will go by Tarloff. Exactly. My name is James. Well, anyway,
not anymore. And so despite this being like a pop-in Halloween party, Beth is the only one who really got into the Halloween theme. She's dressed up as a cat. And the others, however, are boring. They're all older than Beth is. Gertrude is literally just in like this grand ball gown with like iced out jewels, including like a huge like diamond studded necklace. Elmwood and Tarloff like literally just have like suits on, which makes me think costumes are for the poor, apparently. And like generally their actual like, you know, what they look like, we always kind of describe people. It's like not that important. Like Beth and Gertrude kind of look like each other. They're both like blonde white ladies. Elmwood is like a brunette who kind of looks like tired and overworked. But I mainly mentioned their appearances because I have to describe Tarloff because the writers literally just copy and pasted the butler from my Scooby-Doo pirate episode.
Oh my God.
He's like super tall. He like looks like the Addams Family,
like a little hunched over, creepy.
Yeah, like super tall, like gauntly thin, like bags under his eyes, the same deep type of voice. And like I wildly speculate, as a total side note, that he's the only butler in Coolsville. And after the shipping tycoon went down for his crimes, James / now Tarloff needed a new job. And so he went to the Crane family. And he's been caring for the mansion and throwing parties for them ever since he had to get a new job.
Do you remember what his name in that? I remember he worked for Magnus.
It was just the butler in that episode. So at least he has a name
so
now.
It could have been, yeah, true. He's like, wow, this is so much better. They actually gave me a name here.
Yes, and like they include me in the parties
whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he was a pirate. He was terrible.
Yeah. So
he like shudders at the sight of Fred, like old memories.
Not again. So
don't let a pirate into this house. I'll get fired.
And then it also like, and then Fred like takes off the pirate costume. He's like, "Oh, you are the people who broke into the house at 3 a.m. I took down my former boss."
It's even worse than the pirate.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, I'm already like putting Tarloff now as like he's got a huge motive. If it is like the same guy, he's like, this is revenge for taking down my old boss and making me lose my job. Although again, they gave Fred me a name here. Yeah, just against Fred.
And whoever else is dressed as a pirate at this party.
Yeah.
He just like automatically goes into like fighter mode.
I'm like saying this before even knowing like what the crime or what the villain is. I'm just like, oh no, this dude's out to get Mr. Ink. I don't like it. Anyway.
Getting out to get the pirates.
Yeah.
So anyways, everyone is heartily enjoying this party, doing things like bobbing for apples, which I only mentioned because Velma is super salty and sassy about it. And really throughout this whole episode, but like we see them bobbing for apples and like Fred is like already drenched in water, clearly like not doing well at this. And Velma literally goes, "Come on, Fred, catch an apple." Fred's like, "I'm trying. I'm just getting wet though." And she like rolls her eyes at him. So
okay.
Velma's not here to fuck around at this party.
No, clearly.
Yes. So anyways, yep. Yeah, she's killing all the buzz here. But anyways, everyone else is having fun apparently, besides Velma. Yeah. And like Shaggy, Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Dum kind of like wander outside, to like get some fresh air. I think they were, they dropped an apple that Shaggy successfully got and go outside. And, they're just like on like the back patio. Again, this mansion is in the middle of the forest, pretty dense forest. And of course, because it's on Halloween, it's super foggy out here. Yeah, normally. Of course it is. But they're just like hanging out on the back patio here, being like, "Huh, what a spooky night. Whatever, it's Halloween, it fits." And then Shaggy is like, "Oh, Scoobies," just kind of collectively, like, "You guys are really good at like making the like horse neighing noises. Like you're really getting into character." And the Scoobies are like, "We didn't make a horse noise. Like, did you? Oh. Like, no, we didn't make it." And they're like, "Huh, that's weird. Like maybe like Rich Richingtons here just have horses. That would make sense somewhere on their property." Yeah, the Crane families.
It's just a normal thing. They're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So they kind of think nothing of it until the sound of hooves start growing louder and louder, until out of the fog, a person riding a horse emerges and starts running right at them. Only it's not just a normal equestrian. Instead, the caped figure on top of this horse, instead of having a human head, has a pumpkin head, a pumpkin head that can come off, rendering the person headless.
Oh, a person who's headless.
On a horse.
Oh, is he a man?
We'll get to it, because smartly, Shaggy and the Scoobies book it inside, being like, "That is some creepy shit." And they find the gang with Beth in the house. They explain what they smell, but Fred, Velma, and Daphne very smartly point out, like, "Yeah, this is a costume party. Like,
true.
This is probably someone in a costume. Like, duh. Like, they're probably just arrived late." You make
a good point, you investigators.
Yeah, well, like they're just trying to have a fun party. Yeah. But Beth, however, grows suddenly very pale and asks Shaggy to like recount exactly what they saw. And this to her is no mystery, because, as you perhaps hinted, and based on the literal description of this person, is, Beth declares, the Headless Horseman. Now, if this were just some famous mansion in the middle of the woods, we might be like, yeah, Headless Horseman. Okay, writers. But the part of the woods that this mansion is in is called Sleepy Hollow. And Beth announces, when pointing out a portrait of her family, that her great-great-grandfather was the Ichabod Crane.
Of course. I was like,
of course.
Headless. Didn't you say crane earlier? I'm like, you see me like doing calculations in my mind.
The red like string of your mind right now, putting it all together.
I forgot about the Headless Horseman episode of this show.
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, yes, go on. I want to, okay.
We're getting into it.
Yes.
Okay. So Beth goes on to explain who Ichabod Crane was and who the Headless Horseman is. And I will say the writers give just like an extremely accurate Sparks Notes version of Washington Irving's 1820, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Wow, to the point of perhaps copyright infringement.
Yes, it was very light. I mean, like, this was what? Like, this is over 100 years later.
Yeah,
it's in the Creative Commons now or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hopefully, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, yikes, because I'm about to tell it too.
So we are now about to infringe. No, I'm just all good.
It's fine. So the even more spark noted version of this tale.
Yeah.
Really, the parts that are only important for this episode is that, yes, in the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Ichabod Crane was a very superstitious man who got himself into some shit in a place called Sleepy Hollow while vying for the affections of a woman in town, a woman who another man also wanted to marry. Classic. Lots of ghoulish things happen in this town. And it's not just Ichabod Crane who's super superstitious. Most of the women and like old crones in the town are also highly superstitious and love to spill the tea, including about one of the greatest legends of ghosts in their town, which is the legend of a Headless Horseman ghost who previously was a soldier in the Revolutionary War, whose head got blown off by an American cannonball, like USA, USA. Yeah. Exactly. But his head was never found. Yeah, exactly. He apparently it's a thing called a Hessian soldier, which I didn't know about, but it was like Germans who came over to fight for the British side during the Revolutionary War. I know.
And all the love that we've been showing to the Germans on this podcast.
Right?
In the past, not in this episode. People are probably, what the fuck are you talking about? Go back and listen to other podcasts.
Listen.
Whatever.
Anyways, I didn't know it was a thing. And even Beth uses the term a Hessian soldier. So again, Anyways, so as the legend of this ghost in Sleepy Hollow goes, is that, they never were able to find his head. His fellow British soldiers buried him without it. But now the Headless Horseman chases people in Sleepy Hollow down in the dark of night, trying to steal their heads as his own so he can have a head again. It's hard to be a ghost without a head. Yeah, or a collection. It's actually not clear. I guess no one stopped to ask him. But he's still headless.
They were too busy running for their lives or getting their heads cut off.
Exactly. Yeah. Not a lot of time for chit chat. He's not a small chat type guy, it seems like. But the only way to escape this fate was to cross into like the local cemetery, which the horseman couldn't cross into without bursting into flames. I assume because of some like Christianity demon ghost shit type of thing. I've never read it, so I don't actually know.
I saw the movie back when I was really young.
I haven't even seen that, so
okay.
That's Wikipedia and the episode telling me what happened.
Who was in that movie? Anyway.
So one night in the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, at the peak of this love triangle for this woman, Ichabod Crane is riding home when he encounters the Headless Horseman. He tries to flee, just barely making it to the cemetery, maybe just into it. But then the next day, all that is left of Ichabod Crane is his horse and his hat, never to be seen again.
Oh.
And before we jump back into our Scooby-Doo episode, I did do a quick wiki search about like where the tale of the Headless Horseman came from. Like, was this like a Washington Irving like story from scratch, or like
total creative fiction, or
exactly like,
classic folklore?
Where'd this come from?
Yep.
And so folklore is the exact answer, because the figure known as the Headless Horseman has been appearing in folklore around the world, namely Europe, since the Middle Ages. So in addition to the history given in the show, the American folklore version does indeed say that it's like this Hessian soldier from the Revolutionary War, but that he also carries a jack-o'-lantern around with him, both as a replacement head, as we saw in the show, but also as a weapon, apparently, in our version of the story in America. And there is, in real life, a cemetery called the Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow, where a soldier on the British side was buried after he was decapitated by an American cannonball. So that's what gave rise to the American version of the folklore.
Gotcha.
In Scottish folklore, it was a man who was decapitated in a clan battle on the Isle of Mull. And in these accounts, both he and his horse are headless, which is kind of scary.
That would be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, that's like a large thing to just be missing on a horse.
Running around without a head.
Yeah, that's it feels very like Book of Revelations, like the I don't know, like Horsemen of Hell or whatever.
The 4 horsemen.
Yeah,
I mean, I think even those horses the horses they rode on still had heads. But I mean, if you're gonna see headless horses, I guess it would be like at the apocalypse.
Yep, exactly. Like very scary. But the Irish folklore version is my favorite. Ooh, here the Headless Horseman was known as the Dolahon. I don't actually know how to say it, that's how it's spelled. And he is a demonic fairy on a horse, carrying his head in one hand and a human spine in the other hand as a whip. And anytime he stops riding, a human dies. So he stops riding, he calls out the name of a human, and the person immediately dies. So he's kind of like Grim Reaper, very scary metal Headless Horseman version.
That's interesting.
Yes, that's my favorite version.
Crazy folklore, man. Anyway,
I know. I'm like, what were the Irish going through? I guess a lot in the Middle Ages.
Them up.
Yeah, they were like, there's death and famine fucking everywhere. It's the Black Plague, maybe. I don't know when these two things align. Like, we need a reason that people are dying left and right.
Right.
Demonic fairy on a horse with a spine whip. Cool.
Spine whip. Also, like, super impressive to be holding a pumpkin in one hand. Or wait, you said a pumpkin in one hand. Just his head. Oh, his head. Sorry, head in one hand, spine whip in the other, and like riding a horse.
And then being like,
no hands. Look,
hey, stop the horse. You die. Stop the horse. You die.
Am I gonna go again? He like takes one step.
Like he slows from like a canter to a trot, slows down. Like, no, just kidding. Keeps going. I'll be back though.
See you next week.
Fine.
Yeah,
I like him.
I like this guy.
Yeah, I like
parties.
The Irish one.
Yeah, I like the guy.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. So beyond the old folklore, there are, like you kind of mentioned, countless renditions now in pop culture of the Headless Horseman, thanks to really, it seems like, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the book. But I wanted to highlight one in particular of a modern-ish version of it for you, Alexis, because it's a comic book series called Chopper, in which a headless outlaw biker collects the souls of sinners. And basically, like, there's this, in this comic book, there's like this drug that's like similar to ecstasy that essentially opens the gateway to the afterlife. And that's how this headless biker can like motorcyclist, like can reach out to these sinners and basically like kill them and collect their soul into the afterlife. So I haven't read it, obviously. Yeah, I was like,
I'm going to look for it.
I'll let her know. Yeah.
Chopper. Dope. Obviously, like clearly inspired by the legend of Ichabod Crane. Awesome. Gonna check that out.
Yes, highly recommend. Maybe, I don't know. It was on the Wikipedia page.
If I come across it and get it, I'll let you know, and then you can officially recommend it to people based on my recommendation to you.
But I'll act like it was my idea.
Exactly.
So, anyways, so Beth, gives them a quickie retelling of the Headless Horseman and how he chased down her great-great-grandfather, Ichabod Crane, and how Ichabod was never seen again and vanished without a trace. But now the Headless Horseman must be back to continue haunting their family and conduct whatever unfinished business he has with whatever happened with Ichabod Crane. And just as they're all coming to grips with this wild story, all of the power in the mansion goes out as the doors burst open to reveal the Headless Horseman, who is there cackling and announcing he is indeed there to find a new head for himself. And immediately, everyone fucking books it from the party and runs home. Like, they
great
all
response.
leave. Yes, correct response, I would say. However, if there's one thing we can say with certainty about Mystery Inc., as seen in your Aztec Ghost Scooby-Doo episode, is that they will do anything to save a good party.
Anything. They did not drive all the way to Sleepy Hollow for this party just for some guy without a head to scare them off.
They love a good party. They will risk anything to keep the party going. So, of course, in that vein, the gang does not flee. They're like, we're going to solve this shit. We're going to get this party popping again. So they split up to scour the mansion and see where the Headless Horseman went off to, because in the ruckus of everyone fleeing, they lost sight of him. No idea where the horse is. The horse seems like an innocent figure in all of this, so they're not concerned about him. He had a head. They're trying to focus on the horseman. So Shaggy and the Scoobies, surprise, surprise, run into the horseman, who, like, very terrifyingly, like, rips off his pumpkin head and starts, like, reaching for Shaggy's head to, like, rip his head off. Like, a little aggressive, I would say, for Scooby-Doo. Type of thing of just like, I'm just going to pop it off now.
I'm just going to rip this dude's head off. You guys watching? Everyone looking?
Yep, because here it comes. Luckily, they're narrowly able to flee from him and fend him off, obviously making a lot of noise. The rest of the gang runs up to try and save them. But all that's left in the horseman's wake are a lot of like wood chips and like wood shavings. And now I have never owned a horse. I don't know about you, Alexis.
Unfortunately, no.
I am not, indeed. I do like horses. I love to go riding, but I've never owned one, had to take care of one. And I know they eat like hay and grasses and maybe like other snacks. But like, I don't think they eat like wood chips and like shavings as if they're like a beaver or something.
No, that's not where I was expecting you to go with the wood chip thing. I don't think so. I mean, hey, we could be wrong. Hey, LOL. We could be wrong.
Nice.
But
So that's also say that this is a clue. This wasn't like the horseman had like a little snacks in his pocket for the horse. Again,
it wasn't shreds of hay and it wasn't a pile of horse shit. It was
exactly
something that should not be left behind by a horse.
Exactly. It didn't make a lot of sense why the horseman would have wood chips and like wood shavings on him that flew off of him in his fleeing. So we'll call this clue number 1.
Was it like a trail of them following up, or was it just like a pile where he was standing?
It was kind of like a little trail, as if like as he was running, they kind of like flew out from him. It stopped at some point because I guess he ran out of wood chips. But just as the gang is going through their horse sense and horse smarts to add up what the horse deal is, they hear screams in a different part of the mansion and sends them running to it. So here they find the rest of the Crane family. So remember Beth, Aunt Gertrude, Elmwood, and Tarloff. Even though he's not part of the family, more or less, as he's employed by the family. Yeah. In like the study or something like that, where Gertrude is like pale as can be and like clearly panicked. She explains, had been trying to just relax in her study when all of a sudden, from one of the walls, a ghostly hand reached out and grabbed for her head. Oh. And this simply sends the rest of the Cranes into a tizzy and arguments about what's going on. So on one side, we have Beth lamenting that the horseman is coming back to finish them all off, that Ichabod Crane, whatever happened with him, wasn't enough. Their family, the horseman's going to get all of their heads. On the other side, Elmwood said that like that legend is not like, it's not like some like cursed revenge. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like what did Ichabod Crane do to enact this revenge? But instead, he blames it on Gertrude. And specifically, Elmwood explains to the gang that the jewels that Gertrude is wearing actually hold a curse, and they've been locked away in the family vault for generations. And Gertrude, when she decided to get the jewels out to wear them, reopened the curse of or like that's been put on the jewels, thus on the family.
Yeah.
And that the horseman only returned on the day that the jewels got brought out. Tarloff, for his part, is kind of like, aren't we concerned that like a hand protruded from the wall? Like, should we check that? Like,
he's like, yeah, jewels,
house we don't know about. Like,
right.
What's going on?
Can you like secure the premises before we go on about this curse?
About curses? Like, I've seen some curse talk before, and we need step one, secure the premise. And like, again, both very hilariously and like shadily, both against butlers, and two, going back to now like Tarloff hating the gang because of their potential past run-ins. Shaggy or like one of the Scoobies, like for the first time, get like a really good look at Tarloff and shout that like, this is the exact like shade of extremely pale hands that we saw on the horseman earlier. And they like grab Tarloff's hands to like hold them up, and like they're like pale white. And Tarloff is like, I made the desserts tonight. This is all powdered sugar. And the Scoobies start licking at his hands, and indeed it's covered in powdered sugar.
Oh my God.
This butler does not get paid enough.
Shaggy is like, perhaps you are correct, sir. Like still eyeing him all suspicious. Indeed.
Yeah.
But you do still look terrifying.
Yeah, Shaggy's like, how convenient. As Shaggy in a previous episode had also covered himself in like powdered sugar before flour. He's like, I know this trick. They're still sus. But Gertrude, among all of the arguing happening, calms everyone down and decides that she is siding with Elmwood on the causes of this, based on like that theory that it's like the necklaces. Because she not so subtly says that Elmwood has always been her favorite, and she'll do what he thinks is best, which he is like, put the fucking jewels back in the vault. Like, clearly things were chill. What changed? You got some cursed jewels out here, bro. Yeah. Like we all told you not to. However, the slight problem with this solution is, I guess, like, their bank is maybe in like an offshore, like Cayman's physical like vault account, because it's only accessible by plane. But luckily, again, the Richie Rich Crane family, no problem, because they have a plane.
Okay, of course.
Yes. And Elmwood says, okay, I'll go call the bank real quick. He calls the bank and is like, they're cool with it. They'll open like the bank up for us like at fucking midnight.
They probably own the bank.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's the privilege that being mega wealthy gets you, clearly. Yeah. And he's like,
it's like Halloween night too. Sorry, I just imagine. Yeah. They like call the manager or the CEO of the bank. He's like with his son trick-or-treating or something. His son is like, it's his first Halloween, like trick-or-treating. He's like super excited to be in this cute outfit and everything. And he gets a call. It's like 9:30 at night. Sir, we need you to open the bank. We've had a run-in at the Crane Mansion. He's like, well, my son, though, he's getting ready to win a costume contest. It's his first Halloween.
This also,
like, so this is an emergency situation.
This is in season 1 of the Scooby-Doo show. So it, like, in theory, would be like a year before your episode that you did last week.
Yeah.
It's little Timmy.
It's Timmy. I was trying so hard not to say that it was Timmy.
Nope, it's Pumpkin Patch Pat and little Timmy. Everyone go listen to last week's episode and then come back. But 100% Pumpkin, and after this, Pumpkin Patch Pat quit his job at the bank because he needs more time with his family.
More. I need to spend time with my family. Timmy has always wanted to grow pumpkins after when he dressed as a pumpkin that Halloween when the Crane family called him away, and that's what won him the costume contest.
And I couldn't see him then hobble up there on his crutches to get his prize.
He like just leaves them there to go, so he has to like hobble home by himself too in the dark, like Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, and go in. As his dad has to get on his private jet to go open the bank vault. Yes. And again, a single tear falls from both of their cheeks.
As they part ways. The dad doesn't even say goodbye to Timmy. He's just like standing in the back of the crowd at the costume contest and like slowly dips out.
And Timmy's on stage giving his acceptance speech saying thank you to my dad who helped me. He took time off from the bank to help me build this costume. Dad? So fucked up. I would think this is funny.
The person hosting the thing is like, all right, kid, get off the stage. Like, come on, we have another winner to come up for the next round. He's like hobbles off the stage.
The not like depressing kid round. Get off of here.
Yeah.
The round of parents who love their children. Get out of here.
The popular kids come up next wearing like Timmy's outfit is like super poorly made, like hardly looks like a pumpkin. It was really a sympathy vote. These other kids come up in like these elaborate like alien or like astronaut costumes, or like actually like the Headless Horseman with like flames coming out of jack-o'-lanterns, like a rich popular kids. Get off the stage, Timmy.
Timmy doesn't have a ride home now, so he has to hobble home.
Carrying this ginormous trophy too. Like they actually give him a huge trophy, like bigger than him.
And after when Pumpkin Patch Pat gets home from opening the bank vault, like all he like sees is just like the trophy and like the costume, like in like the like foyer of their house, and that's the night he quit the bank and decided to grow pumpkins to be with little Timmy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. Too bad little Timmy dies the next year.
Yeah. Oh God. Next Halloween is no better actually for little Timmy. It actually gets a lot worse.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So
anyways, well, things also get worse here because they confirm like, great, we'll go drop this off at the bank. Elmwood is just like, this'll like, we need to get this shit done now. Like I've been telling you this is cursed. So the gang watches Elmwood drive off into the fog, where immediately they hear a huge crash, and they run to the scene to find a fully totaled car against a tree.
Oh no.
And all that's left is a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin head in the seat.
Ooh.
Immediately they're like, oh, this was the head that the horseman was carrying around, and he wanted a new head, and now there's no Elmwood.
And a crashed vehicle.
Yes. And so instead of one going inside to tell the rest of the Cranes that like their cousin / son just got into a major car crash and is missing, or calling the authorities for like a missing persons / like emergency services for a car crash. The gang starts to scour the car for clues, yet again, wiping away all traces of evidence, etc., etc. But I will say they do find some very strange things, or normal things, I don't know, around the car. So first of all, in the car, they find like a small cutout picture of Elmwood. And one of the gang, I can't remember who it was, like notes that like the back of this like cutout picture is like kind of like sticky, like it has like glue on it or something like that, and they kind of like peel it up from where they found it in the car.
Yeah.
And next they find a newspaper clipping which Shaggy finds and skims, and it's this weird article about how a UFO was spotted at a beauty convention, which is really weird and very specific. And Shaggy's like, oh, that's weird.
Slow
everyone else
news
is like,
day, I guess.
Yeah, that is weird. Like, I guess this was a boring ass beauty convention, so someone was like, hey, there's a UFO. There you go.
Okay, all these reporters like rush in.
Yeah, they're like, covering the rest of this shit was boring. UFO. So finally,
which, like, sorry, but what does that say about the contestants and the
I think it was like a beauty convention, as in like a makeup convention, not like
Like an expo, not a beauty pageant.
Yeah, like an
Gotcha.
expo
Okay.
was the vibe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. And finally Velma notices that there's no keys in the ignition of the car anymore, which is also strange because it's a pretty bad car crash. Like the entire like front of the car was like accordioned in, and it was like an old timey car. So it was a long way and like into a tree, kind of like up on like a little hill. Like it was totaled. Like, you know, maybe that like fucked up the keys somehow. So again, instead of, you know, being like, well, these are some weird clues, again, we should call the authorities or tell the family members. They go to the next logical spot, the cemetery of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh my God.
Yes. And so on the way, they both catch glimpses of the horseman, who indeed looks like he now has a head, making them panic a little bit. There's no more pumpkin shape up there. It's like a human head shape now. Yeah. And they run into Tarloff out and about in the fog. And he
in the cemetery?
On the way to the cemetery.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And so Tarloff explains that he was actually headed to the neighbor's house to see not only if their power had been knocked out, but Tarloff explains that he found that the phone lines were dead because a tree had not just fallen onto the phone lines, but looked like it was cut down with an axe. And so Tarloff was going over to be like, I guess he doesn't like the neighbors. He was like, y'all cut down this tree and fuck up our phone lines. And or like,
I know y'all did it.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is some like reality show like Butler Wars going on. Like he's gonna go take their butler down. It's the only competition in town or something like that. It's unclear. But with that, Fred is like, okay, you're creepy. It's foggy in the dark. We're already apparently maybe enemies, Tarloff, from our last run-in. And so Fred like makes the gang put a little more pep in this step to get to the cemetery. And I want to pause here because I think at some point there needs to be a full like psych eval of Mystery Inc. because it was very clear that Fred didn't really rush the gang along because he like solved the mystery, was like worried about Tarloff or anything like that. But he hurries along so that he can get to what he wants to do at the cemetery, which is why I asked the question in your last episode about Fred robbing a grave. Because we literally next see a mausoleum with Fred and a crowbar trying to open it up.
Dude, also such disrespect. Like, it's one thing to be a grave robber, but you're gonna fucking use like a crowbar to open it, like ruin a coffin.
Like full on, he's like using all his weight to like open up this mausoleum. And it's specifically of the fallen soldier that eventually turned into the horseman.
Ichabod. Okay, yeah.
Gotcha. Yes, not Ichabod Crane, but like the OG, like in the Revolutionary War, this soldier who died and then turned into the legend. But apparently this was all part of Freddie Jones's plan because it was too hard for him to open, which to him, that means, well, if I can't open it, how could a ghost? As if they can't float through walls. So,
and as if he's the strongest person alive.
Yes. So I guess this was all
I can't open it, so no one can.
Yeah, literally that's what he says. I think Fred just like wanted to see if he could rob this grave because he's like super into it. And then when he couldn't, he was like, oh yes, I meant to come here and show you that if I couldn't open it, a ghost zombie couldn't open it either.
Sheds a small tear like, damn it, I was gonna steal so much shit in there.
Right, he's like, fuck, should we find Ichabod's Crane grave next? Did they bury him? They couldn't find his body. I just want to rob some shit tonight. Like that's like Fred's Halloween tradition, I guess.
Was it the very first episode we did with the Knights
Templar?
The tomb? Well, that, and also didn't they have like creepy shit in the back of the mystery machine? I know one of the episodes we did, it was like ropes and all
they
types
had, like,
they are straight up like grave robbers / kidnappers, I think, by trade.
Yes, 1,000%. They had like full heist materials in the back of the mystery machine in the first episode.
like that's their like classic inventory. Like they always have it ready in the trunk or like in the back. Like, like we might encounter a cemetery while we're wherever we go.
Right.
We gotta have our grave robbing kit.
Fred does love like the back roads, like type of thing. He also in like the Aztec ghost episode was like, yeah, let's go into this temple, which like typically temples and pyramids were for like great rulers' tombs. So yeah, Fred Jones loves robbing graves.
I think that if we track it, honestly, almost every episode that we've done of Scooby-Doo now, besides maybe one or two, involves him stealing something from a tomb in one way or another, or a grave.
We need to look into Fred.
I think
a little bit.
You got some issues here. It's like, they fell into this investigation. Fell, quote unquote, into, aka Freddie was out just trying to do his normal grave robbing, and then they like realized that shit was already stolen from there. He got
and he was like, I was solving a mystery. That's off.
See, these things were stolen, and I didn't steal them.
I didn't do it. Puts his backpack and is like clanging like noises.
Shovels and shit.
Dirt falling out of the backpack.
It's like dirt on his shoes.
A skull rolls out of the backpack. Like the most evidence.
Right.
Anyways, I guess Fred is like, okay, well, I guess scratch that fun night off my to-do list. But luckily, it does help him go to another conclusion. And he rushes the gang to the van so they can head the Headless Horseman off at the place that Freddy now knows the legendary figure is going. Instead of the cemetery again, which was just for Fred's own funsies, the airport.
So,
they arrive at one of those, like, it's like a small airport, like the one of the ones where it's like, you know, like little 2-person like planes or like one person can fly it themselves. Again, like, fancy. I know how to fly my own plane and have my own plane. Exactly. And so they arrive just before the horseman indeed arrives galloping in. And this confirms one of their worst fears, that indeed atop of the horseman's shoulders is indeed a head now. But it is the ghoulish looking head of Elmwood with like pale as can be, with drooping eyes and matted hair, as if he just came out of a grave, and looking gaunt as well. And luckily, through a series of shenanigans and mishaps, Shaggy and Scooby are able to corner the horseman in the tiny plane and get the horseman out of it before it takes off to God knows where. At this point, they do call the authorities, which is the same like cowboy trooper that shows up.
Who didn't know how to use the handcuffs.
Who doesn't know how to use, he doesn't even bother with the handcuffs this time.
Okay.
At all. He was like, we don't need to do it. So Shaggy does the big reveal of pulling the mask off.
Oh,
do you want
Shaggy.
to guess who it is? I know Shaggy got the honors.
That's right. Oh yeah, you know, I forgot that we did the big reveal. Honestly, yeah, because I didn't do that in my episode last week, but it would have been almost impossible. So I would have an unnamed character was the big reveal last week, literally.
Unfair,
wait, can you go back through the list of suspects? Sorry, just like real quick, the names.
Yep. So it's like the Crane family. So Beth, who was the friend who invited them, and she thought that it was the horseman back for revenge. We had Aunt Gertrude, who was wearing the cursed jewels and throwing the party. We had Elmwood, who's Gertrude's favorite, and was like, those jewels are hella cursed. And we had Tarloff, who I surmise is the old butler from before, and is like, this is some creepy shit. Secure the perimeter. I'm gonna go to the neighbor's house and call him out.
Yeah. Dang, yeah, I thought it was Gertrude.
So Shaggy pulls until the horseman finally shouts out in pain, telling Shaggy, stop pulling my face.
My face, yeah.
Yes, because just as Fred knew, apparently, it was Elmwood. So Fred goes through the clues, and I think Velma helps.
Yeah.
So they, at first weren't sus of Elmwood until they hear from Tarloff that the phone lines were off and cut down because of a cut down tree. Which Elmwood said he went and called the bank to confirm that he could fly and drop off the diamonds.
Liar.
The phones were not working.
Yeah. 2,
the fact that the wood chips were left behind, and thus he must have chopped down the tree, gotten some wood shavings on his fit, etc., and left them behind. So again, as Tarloff had explained, wood chips cut down the tree. The small picture of Elmwood was apparently a passport photo, because apparently you just glued them in back in the day, which I will say international travel, sometimes you do need extra photos for passports, for visas. Again, I guess I don't know how to glue on it, but whatever. But clearly Elmwood was indeed trying to flee the country with the jewels. And why did he want the cursed jewels? Well, apparently he made up that this was a family curse, so he could take the jewels from Gertrude and sell them for a shit ton of money, because in classic Shaggy fashion, he did not read both sides of the newspaper article he found.
Okay, thank you. I was like, well, what about the newspaper article? What about that? Okay.
Because on the other side of the UFO Beauty Convention article was an article about the bankruptcy of Elmwood Crane's company. So, yes, Elmwood used the legend of the Horseman in this family plot, / possibly maybe he was gonna blend in as a costume figure, and then the whole gang kind of got in his way, so he switched gears to cursed jewels, let me go drop him off at the bank type of thing. Again, he knows how to fly the plane, Richie Rich Boy, and yes, was going to take the jewels, sell them, and get all of his money back.
Yeah.
And now I will say, Gertrude willingly gave Elmwood the diamonds, so I don't really understand the legalities of a con, I guess. Duping someone
it's fraud
into something.
Still. Yeah.
And I'm a little fuzzy and gray on that, especially before this was before internet scams. Obviously people have been con men for forever, but I don't know where that lies in the level of legalities and our legal system of just I got tricked, but you gave them, there was no contract. I don't know how it works at all. But anyways, Elmwood classically says this would have been the perfect crime, wasn't for your kids, and the trooper has the last line saying, well, we'll find a perfect jail cell for you instead. And that's it. Happy Halloween. That's how it ends.
Wow.
A quickie, but a classic.
No, yeah, definitely a classic. Tying in that classic spooky story of Sleepy Hollow. Yeah. Oh my God. Great job.
Yes.
I totally forgot about that episode.
Yeah. As soon as I started watching it, I was like, oh my God. And then I was also like, oh wow, they give a very accurate, correct description of the legend of Sleepy Hollow in this. Good job,
it's
Beth Crane.
And I don't know, is that does that book take place around Halloween or something? I just that story screams Halloween to me, the legend of Sleepy Hollow always has, I guess, because it's a scary ghost with a jack-o'-lantern essentially head. It's very Halloween-esque.
It's either that the legend of Sleepy Hollow when Ichabod Crane disappears, or when the battle happened that the actual soldier who created this legend died, happened on October 28th. I think it might have been the battle was on October 28th, and so it's always had the tie in American folklore to the Halloween time frame of things.
Nice.
So there we go.
Yeah.
Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Just involving. Wait a minute. Yeah, what was Scooby-Dum? Was he was just tagging along pretty much?
Yeah, he didn't really do much this episode. He was just I thought I was getting invited to a nice Halloween party. Although I will say, in this episode, the writers accidentally say that they're brothers, not cousins.
Ooh.
Yeah, so a little bit of discrepancy.
Oopsie.
But it's okay. If Fred said it, he was distracted. He had grave robbing on the mind. He was like, hey, Scooby-Doo, they're brothers or something like that. So the cemetery. Beth, where are the directions to that again? I think there's a mystery afoot. And she was like, what?
Huh?
I want to
What's going on?
desecrate the ruins of my family? What?
What? Huh? Nothing. No. What?
That?
Hmm?
No.
I didn't say anything about stealing jewels or anything from a mausoleum. What?
No. But
Fred, who told you that my ancestors were buried in a mausoleum? He's like already researched all of this. Like,
yeah. He has like a whole map, like in the mystery machine of like cemeteries in like a 300-mile radius, and he's just slowly knocking them
the
off.
Most famous people, buried in all of them. He's like, oh my god, did you know that someone from the Crane family is buried here? We have to get invited to their Halloween party, guys.
Get to that party.
Daphne,
he's always
do you have
like
connections. Daphne's like, yes,
researching.
Yes,
that's why he's like down to go to the library with like Velma or like the witchcraft museum to look at like family trees to be like, and where were they buried? Interesting. Fascinating. So Fred the grave robber. I guess save the day, maybe.
I'm pretty sure we can track it back, and there's like 2 episodes that we've done where he's not actively desecrating someone's burial site.
Final resting place.
Yeah,
we should also eventually, maybe I'll do this as a future crime caper of the various stories of like, you started off as a grave robber selling bodies to doctors back in like Victorian eras, because that's how they had to do research back in the day, was like dead bodies.
Robbing graves.
Then some turned into serial killers and would still drop the bodies off and get paid for the bodies in England. Yeah, it's a great story. It's
working
fucked up.
both sides of the system.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Back pocket that one.
Yes, on that note,
awesome.
Who should the folks listening tell about this podcast between now and next week's Halloween episode?
Well, let's see. We're getting much closer to the actual holiday by the time that this one drops. So I think that, if you're going to a Halloween party in preparation, like either this weekend or next weekend, like at some point, just like go up to the DJ or like whoever is playing the music, hit pause, just stop it and make a loud ass announcement and tell everyone at that party, watch Saturday Morning Mysteries, because
and then put it on.
Actually,
have the mic.
Yeah, which maybe that should be your suggestion. And Grace, I'm telling you to just tell the whole party. Grace is like, no, just put the fucking podcast on, and then have one speaker just like on repeat playing like the Ghostbusters theme music, and then the other speaker just playing our podcast just on repeat. Feel good.
Well, I actually think that you should, it's like getting Halloween time, it's getting spooky. A fun childhood game, Ghost in the Graveyard. I grew up like across the street down the hill from a graveyard. In my current home, my backyard is a graveyard.
Nice.
So classic game. I think while you're playing maybe Ghost in the Graveyard, respectfully around the graves, of course. If there's someone there, maybe don't ask if they're like the cemetery caretaker or grave robber, because if it's the latter, now you're implicated in the crime, and if it's
they will kill you.
It's just their job. But tell them about this podcast.
Yeah. Again, don't ask who they are. Just if you see them, if they have shovels, just say, hi, I like your shovel. Watch Saturday Morning Mysteries, and then run the fuck out of there.
Yes, and then no more playing in that graveyard. Go to a different one next time.
Ever
you
again.
saw nothing.
Yes.
And that's it. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.